Fall harvest. Some interesting plants you can grow. A quick fix for your raised beds. And a lot more in today's episode of California Gardening. We will begin with a garden tour. We'll look at what's growing in the California garden this month. We'll look at all the harvests we made. Some things for you to do this month. As well as some cool gardening products. So let's begin with the garden tour. In our first bed, we have the spring onions still growing. They're not producing bulbs yet, so we'll see how it grows in the next month. Next to the onions, we have the bitter gourd plant, and we harvested a lot of bitter gourds once again this month. The cluster beans have now gone and have been replaced by the radish plants. This is a new radish variety I'm trying out for the first time, and we'll see how it goes. The hyacinth beans right next to that is growing pretty well even in the fall season. Pretty happy about that. The okra plants here are towards the end of their life and they would be removed very soon. On the other side, we have some more radish seedlings that were planted. And right next to that, we have the Malabar spinach and some broccoli plants. This is the English violet variety of broccoli, a new variety that I'm trying out. I've sowed some carrots and radish seeds right next to it. As you can see here, they have formed some nice seedlings. And the okra plants on the other bed also are beginning to go towards the end of their life. So we'll see whether we need to retain them next month. Some brassicas that we planted here, these are the new plants. The tomatoes were done for the season, so we removed them and planted some brassicas as well as some beets, as you can see here. And that completes the tour of the raised beds. We will now proceed to the tour of the containers. So in the container garden, we still have the pineapple plants that are growing well. We've sowed some carrot seeds here in this whiskey barrel container, and hopefully they should do well in this month. Right next to the carrots, we have the cauliflower plant. Just one cauliflower that's growing in this container. It does have some insect damage, but we'll see how that goes. The radishes have grown very well. This is the winter radish, and it's growing very well now. Followed by the ivy gourd plant that has been growing well and still producing some ivy gourds, as you can see here. So overall, I'm pretty happy with the growth of this plant so far. And some kohlrabis that we planted here. The back containers don't have a lot of updates, so I'm going to skip the back container tour for this month. And let's go to the fruit trees. We have the Persian limes that are growing very well, as you can see here. And right next to that, we have the tangerines, the Dancy Tangerines that are also growing very well. Next to that, we have the guava trees. The Mexican guava is growing very well now. And the Washington Navel orange tree is loaded with oranges. We got a lot of oranges this year and I'm looking forward to the harvest. The Moringa trees are loaded with fruit as well. And this was a great year for Moringa. You will see that in the harvest section of the video. We harvested a lot of Moringas. And the Rajapuri banana is also growing very well, the dwarf variety. Our gem avocado tree is growing very well this year and is loaded with avocados. So this is a great year for avocados, unlike last year when we didn't get much. So I'm looking forward to the harvest of these avocados in the coming months. For the first time, we are trying out the spinach variety. It's called the longevity spinach. And this looks like a very interesting spinach variety. It has a lot of health benefits. And I'm looking forward to growing this plant and seeing how it goes. And now for the harvest. The bitter gourd plants have been growing in our raised bed for quite some time now. And it kept giving more bitter gourds even in the month of October. And as you can see here, the plant had grown very well. And we did have a relatively warm October this year. So that might have helped the growth of this bitter gourd plant. But usually towards the end of the fall, the production slows down. Not in this case. It kept giving us more and more bitter gourds. We harvested our cilantro. There were a few hot days that we experienced, so the cilantro didn't grow very well, but the cilantro that we had in the raised beds had grown quite large enough to be harvested. So we went ahead and harvested all the cilantros from the raised bed. Cilantro is again a cool season crop, and although it's supposed to grow well in the fall season, we've had some really hot days, and that's why the cilantro didn't grow that well for us this season. The painted hill corn that you have been following in my previous videos is now ready for harvest. So this month we did go ahead and harvest the painted hill corn, and I've reviewed this corn variety in one of my previous videos. It's an early corn variety. It's not so sweet, and it produces these great looking kernels as you can see here. So overall I was quite happy with the way this plant grew, especially in this whiskey barrel container. We were growing about 3 or 4 plants, and all of these plants were yielding very good tasting corn, and I didn't have a lot of insect or disease issues with these corn, and we could harvest a lot of corn cobs from this plant all through the month of October. So it's a nice corn variety that I would recommend. We got some guavas from our Arabian guava tree, as you can see here, and some of these fruits were way high up, so we used a fruit picker, which really simplifies the job of harvesting these guavas. As you can see here, the fruit just falls into this basket and you just pull out the fruit harvester and you get some delicious guavas. I'll post a link to the fruit picker in the video description below, and as you can see here, the guavas are very nice. These are delicious guavas, very sweet, and they taste really amazing when they're harvested fresh. The hyacinth beans was one of the best growing crops for this month, and the hyacinth beans grows both in the hot season as well as in the cooler months. So now that it's fall, we're getting some really cool days, but we did have some hot days, some heat waves this month, due to which a lot of plants were really in shock. Not this one though. The hyacinth beans kept producing a lot of pods, as you can see here, and we were able to harvest a lot of hyacinth beans all throughout this month. Remember that this bean variety has to be cooked before you eat. You should not be eating these beans raw. Most of the beans like French beans or cluster beans can be eaten raw, but it's recommended that you cook the hyacinth beans. The hyacinth beans is not something that you would eat raw. If you have some little helpers helping you collecting them, that's even better. So as you can see here, it's a great harvest, quite a big harvest as you can see here, and I've been very happy with the way that the hyacinth beans have grown. And overall, I'm very pleased, and I would highly recommend that you try growing hyacinth beans. Just remember that this bean variety cannot be eaten raw. You need to cook it and then eat it, and just make sure you're following the guidelines of eating this properly. And it's a very delicious bean variety once cooked. You can Google for a lot of dishes that you can make with hyacinth beans, and you will not be disappointed. We got some great harvest from our ivy gourd plant, and I've reviewed ivy gourd in one of my previous videos as well. If you haven't tried eating ivy gourd, you should try it out. It is like a spicy version of cucumber. They're like small mini cucumbers that you can cook and eat, and they taste absolutely delicious. And there are again many recipes that you can try out with ivy gourds, and since it's technically a weed, it grows like crazy. So I've grown this in containers to make sure that I constrain the growth. And October was a great month to harvest ivy gourd. As you can see here, we got a lot of ivy gourds, and when harvesting ivy gourds, you will go from harvesting 1 or 2 to a lot of ivy gourds. Our Moringa plant also grew very well, and we harvested a lot of Moringa pods this month. As you can see here, it's producing great looking pods, amazing leaves as well that can be harvested and eaten. But the pods are really the most delicious part of the plant. The Moringa pods can be harvested when they are tender, like what you see on your screen here. And they are extremely healthy. Moringa is a superfood. It has a lot of vitamins and minerals, a lot of nutrients that are essential for your body. So I highly recommend that you eat Moringa, and if you can grow Moringa at your place, definitely do that. It's worth it. And the okra plants that we were growing produced a lot of pods almost every day throughout October, and that was kind of a surprise because the okra plants usually start dying by the time it's October because of the cooler season. But we did have a hot October this year. In fact, the temperatures last week were around 95 to 100 degrees. So extremely hot conditions for October. And that's why you can see that the okra plants have grown very well. They're producing all these pods. And we were harvesting these pods almost every day. The last batch of tomatoes were harvested in October as well. These were the tomatoes that we planted around July, and towards the end of the season, as you can see here, we do have a lot of tomatoes. This is the celebrity tomato variety, something that I was really happy growing this season, and I will definitely try it out next season as well. Here is a quick tip to secure your raised beds that are loose. As you can see here, this panel is loose. You will need some corner braces. This is the aluminum corner brace, or you can get it in steel. As you can see here, the size that you need is 1.5 inches for most raised beds, and some screws. Now all you do is take those wooden screws and then attach the corner braces to your raised bed where you want to secure them. And whenever you have these loose sides on your raised beds, this quick tip can help you secure them very easily and extend the life of your raised beds. Some of your potted plants might have gotten root bound, so it's important to check them. This is the lemongrass plant that we were growing in this small container, and as you can see here, it is severely root bound now. So this is a good time to check which of your plants are root bound and try to transplant them into a larger container. As you can see here, you can also start saving seeds for your summer crops. This cayenne pepper variety produced some excellent cayenne peppers, and that's the reason we're going to save these seeds for the next season. And once your peppers turn red and they start getting shriveled, you can remove the seeds and then save them. So here are some red cayenne peppers that we harvested, and we're going to be just opening them, removing all the seeds, and then saving it for the next season. So by saving your own seeds, you know that a crop that has given you good results will continue to do that for the coming years. We're also going to be sowing the cool season crops like carrots. October and November are good months to sow seeds for cool season crops. We are sowing these seeds in this whiskey barrel container. This is the atomic red carrot variety, a carrot variety that I really liked growing in the past. So I'm hoping that this is going to yield some good carrots this season. And once I sow the seeds, what I do is cover it with a small layer of peat moss, perlite. You can even use coco coir, as you might have seen in my last video. But once you sow the seeds, just gently cover it with any kind of growing medium. That gives the seedlings a little bit of a better chance to grow. So once you water them well, keep them moist till they sprout. This is also a good time to transplant your winter seedlings. If you've been following my advice of starting your seeds, your winter vegetable seeds in August, they might have grown to this size now. So it's a good time to start transplanting them. Once they become this size, there are less chances of it being destroyed by critters, by insects. So go ahead and transplant your seedlings now. And once you've planted your seedlings, just make sure you keep them moist and well watered for a few days. And now for the gardening products for this month. We're going to be reviewing the Pro Hex seed starting system. As you can see here, it comes with a lot of these 72 to be precise hex cells, and this bottom container that will hold the water, as well as a dome if you want to use it as a greenhouse. And this was the cheapest seed starting system that I found in the store. You can even buy it online. I'll provide you the links to get one for yourself. But it's decent quality. I wouldn't say it's great quality, but it gets the job done. I mean, you don't want like really sturdy cells. So all you need to do is fill these cells with some kind of growing medium. I'm using the Black Magic Coco Core mix that I have shown you in my previous video as well. And it's a great mix. It comes pre-mixed with Coco Core and Perlite, and it forms a great seed starting mix. So these 72 hex cells are something that you can use to start your seeds while you're waiting for your garden to be ready. And you can start most seeds in the seed starting system. We're going to be sowing some radish here. This is the watermelon radish, and I've usually not transplanted radish seedlings before, but I'm going to try it out. I'm going to see how it goes. I'm going to be sowing these radish seedlings in this seed starting system, and then going to see how it performs once I transplant them. So there are a lot of ways that you can start your seeds indoors. You can use your own containers, but a cheap container like this, a cheap growing system like this, will save you a lot of headache. It will save you a lot of time as well. So I do recommend that you try out some kind of growing system, and this Pro Hex growing system is probably one of the cheapest that you can find, and I found good results. In just a few days, the seedlings emerged, as you can see here, and within the next few days, the seedlings kept growing. Now you can see some uneven water distribution, and that's because my container wasn't placed on a level. But once I distributed the water in the reservoir equally, that problem was gone, and I was able to grow these plants very successfully. I usually use an ice cream stick or a popsicle stick to remove these plants from the hex cells and then transplant them into the ground, and you're done. So it's an easy to use system and something that I would definitely recommend that you try out. So there we have it, folks. That was our episode on the California garden in the month of October. If you liked this video, do give us a thumbs up. If you have any comments or suggestions, do put them in the comments box below. We'll see you again soon. Happy gardening.